Hello and welcome to this short webcast on how a workplace safety solution can benefit your hotel. Today's agenda is going to be just a quick introduction to myself. We're going to learn a little bit about how workplace safety solutions can help improve employee retention and recruitment. We're also going to understand the cost benefits of a workplace safety solution. And we're going to discover some ways employee safety devices can reduce organizational liability and risk, as well as possibly hear from you towards the end. Quick introduction to myself. My name is Ryan Heideman. I am the Vice President of Sales here at React Mobile. I've been with React and in the hospitality industry for a little over 4 years. We are really passionate about what we do here. We've built a purpose-driven platform to help make the world a safer place. And you'll see why we unfortunately need to be able to do this, but excited to talk to you, and let's jump right into it. So how do we improve employee retention and recruitment? We know it's a big issue right now in the industry after the pandemic, or if some might be still in the pandemic. But some of these stats are pretty alarming. 60% of the hotel workers report being sexually harassed at some point on the job. For us, that is not acceptable. And so you can see here that the majority of housekeepers said that they would feel safer when they are working behind closed doors and inside guest rooms, that if they did find themselves in a vulnerable situation or a medical emergency, they could be able to call for help at a moment's notice. So that is something that we want to be able to empower them to be able to do that. And we'll talk a little bit more of how that, what are the benefits if you were able to provide that. So improving employee retention and recruitment, it's more than just meeting a minimum requirement. If right now we're seeing a lot of housekeeping team be short-staffed. If this is your situation, this could be affecting your guest experience. Your brand realizes that the well-being of every person engaged in the hotel enterprise ultimately impacts not just the guest experience, team culture and retention, but profitability. Investing in the safety of your employees by providing panic buttons will give employees an increased sense of value and will create a better company culture. Employees are more likely to stay with hotels where they feel safe and supported. Investing in panic buttons will also aid in the effort to attract more candidates by offering prospective employees a safe working environment. This quote that you can see here, 89% of employees surveyed. This quote from ADP summarizes the need for a prioritization of employee safety in the workplace, along with training, continued education to ensure that your staff have everything that they need to be prepared in the event of an emergency. Whether it's just a general emergency or something much worse, something specific to an immediate danger with the life and the well-being of your employees. And by doing that, showing your employees you care, especially in an industry known for high turnover rates, it's one of the best practices to improving retention on your property, as well as any additional recruitment efforts. It does cost, just to give you some numbers behind that, it does cost anywhere between $3,000 to $4,500 to replace an individual employee, which, depending on your budget, can add up very quickly and become very expensive. So let's talk about some additional benefits. As I mentioned before, it's whether it's recruiting and training. This is now the minimum bar set by the industry. There are also additional benefits, cost savings. So it's not just about I have to do this. It's you should want to do this and create an environment for your employees. But there are some actual dollar savings as well. So aside from that average dollar amount that I said to replace an employee, there are other cost benefits to a workplace safety solution. A big one is workers' comp. Not only can you save on the reduction of risk and liability, which if something were to happen you didn't have anything, can lead to pretty costly fines, as well as possible legal liability. But really you actually eligible to receive possibly a credit on your workers' comp premiums. In fact, employers who implement a workplace safety solution in the state of Florida are eligible to receive up to a 2% credit on their workers' comp insurance premiums. There are some other states as well, and if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend you contact your insurance provider directly. So let's discuss a little bit more. When it comes to reducing your liability and risk, I really want to emphasize this again. It's not just about setting that minimum bar of, okay, I have to do this. You should want to be able to do this. You should really want to understand from your housekeeper's perspective what goes on in their day-to-day, day-to-day lives and day-to-day, work. How hard is it? When they really experience that? How do they experience that? Hotels can really, now that everyone has set this, mandate for next year, you really can't cut corners. Otherwise, you're going to really open yourself up to risk. And so that I'm not trying to, play the risk factor here. I want to add some numbers behind that. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but there are roughly 2,300 injuries and a little over 100 deaths resulting from incidents related to workplace violence in the hospitality industry every single year. So once you see these numbers, that it's not, and then we have a ton that go more that go unreported. Once you start seeing these numbers, it just makes sense to be able to not only kind of reduce your liability and risk as a GM, as a manager, as an executive team, as an ownership group, as well as the additional benefits that I mentioned earlier. So now, we've discussed some of the costs and benefits, reducing liability. Now let's talk about what you should look for when you're actually looking at a panic button partner, vendor, whatever you want to call it. If you're, just starting this process because your mandate begins next year, or if you're maybe in the process and, so hopefully you take some ideas from this and maybe reevaluate what vendor you might be looking at, just so you can make sure that you're making the best decision possible. Some of the things that, that might be a little costly, you might want to make sure that you have as a checklist is this system going to cover my entire property? There are a lot of different solutions out there, a lot of different technology providers. And so you want to understand if it's a Wi-Fi based solution, if it's a cellular based solution, or something in between, or something completely different. You really need to understand how this coverage, if my individual employee goes anywhere on the property, are they able to call for help at a moment's notice? Carrier types, the types of hardware. Is it, what do the form factor look like? How would they carry this on their persons? How would they actually activate it? These are all things that you should really be starting to think about, making notes when you're going through this vendor evaluation to make sure that, okay, based on how our property and our organization uses this and leverages our existing infrastructure, this is probably going to be the best. So you want to understand coverage, possibly, the different types of carriers. And then I mentioned before that the type of hardware, is it a rechargeable employee safety device? Is it hardwired? So these are all things that you should really be starting to spitball as you go through this process. Hotels that do take advantage of next-gen panic buttons are taking an integral step into their brand, their business, and their people. Before selecting a panic button platform, we do suggest looking for the following features. If not all of them, a combination of these ones. Do you want, let me ask you this, if there was a problem at your property, if there was an emergency, would you want someone to be verified to respond to that alert, how long that person took to get there, and who that person was to resolve that issue? So verified response is usually a big one that pops out to me. Does the panic button, is it instantly activated? Is it a silent alarm? Does it have, what is the support? Is it easy to install, or will the vendor come out and actually install it for me as opposed to just shipping it to me and expecting me to self-install? We talked about, being short-staffed from an operational standpoint. You might not have the bandwidth to actually install correctly. So does it meet city and state mandates, collective bargaining agreements for union housekeeping staff? So I'm just throwing out ideas that should be thought about really diligently when it comes to selecting this, if not all, or at least the majority, but really more importantly, what fits for you, what's the best fit for your property. Does it have a minimal footprint? Is it an extensive infrastructure build out? You may not have the time or the capital to resources to do that. So just once again, something to think about when you want to make the best decision based on maybe your existing infrastructure that you've built out and had the capital put into that. So what is going to be the best for your property specifically, because it's not a one size fits all. One of the things that React Mobile is able to do is it has a lot of benefits outside of just the housekeepers. From a housekeeper's perspective, it is wonderful that once they trigger their alert, they actually get an indication that help is on the way. So they don't have to just sit there and wonder when it's going to happen. But some of the other departments that will really be able to benefit from this is the manager or the executive team. They're able to see, improved response times. They're going to be able to see tracking to our actual arrival. So how long it typically takes anywhere on property to respond to an alert. Really easy system health, alert history. From a management group, ownership group perspective, you're able to see multi-property views and that parent-child relationship, which is really beneficial. So you can always know what's going on at any of your properties. You can also leverage investments in Wi-Fi, smart thermostats, and any other existing maybe software technologies that I said before you've already invested in. We're not, if you've already heavily invested in, say, housekeeping software or smart thermostats or new access points, we want to be able to take advantage of that to have as little CapEx expense for you and still comply with all of the mandates across the country, as well as that brand standard coming next year. And then the last piece here is really one of the headaches that gets completely removed is on the IT staff. If you have an IT team, whether that's a single person or a team, end users they don't need to manage passwords. It's all cloud-based. We've got integrations, as I said before, with your existing infrastructure, access points, smart thermostats, things like that, as well as single sign-on security. So that is one thing. It's a really big headache that gets removed by having a completely cloud-based, as opposed to, wired up, and they have to manage that as well. And with that, I hope that gives you a good idea of some of the questions to think about as you're selecting a vendor as we head into 2023, as well as some of the benefits that, this is no longer just a minimum checklist. I have to do this type of thing just in case. There are benefits to that as we, the state of the industry that it is in today. And, we're excited for a big 2023, and it feels like hospitality is back. People are traveling. And so we're excited to be able to support as all the hotels that really want to make sure that they meet or exceed their brand standard next year. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out for a demonstration. And once our team will be able to set up a more tailored demonstration, as I said before, based on some of the feedback that you can provide us on what your hotel looks like before we just dive into a demonstration. We want to really understand what's going to be the best fit for your property. So thank you very much. I hope this was helpful, and Happy New Year.